I have a confession to make. However, before I say anything, I'm going to ask that all of you go easy on me, because I know that this may be something that lots of you find unacceptable. But the truth is that I no longer watch TV shows. Now, the reason I don't watch TV shows is because I know the second I've turned on a TV show that I just love, I'm going to get hooked. And when I say hooked, I mean an obsessive level of hooked, something that I don't want happening in my life. So I remember when I first discovered this about myself, I discovered that when I started to like something, I started to like it a lot. And then I started to do it with basically all of my free time. I realized I had an addictive personality. And I was really disappointed with myself, because I knew an addictive personality made me susceptible to all those things that I just didn't want to be susceptible to. Thankfully enough, I wasn't introduced to many of those things. But there was one thing that I was introduced to, and at a fairly young age, and I did get addicted to it. Right now, I'm freed. But I know many of my peers are not, which is why I'm here to tell you and my high school friends how to free teenagers, the technology victims. But before I get on my journey of social media and how I got introduced to it, I do want to clear a misconception about an addictive personality. And that misconception is that an addictive personality is a bad thing. I can assure you that from my experience, if you can channel that obsession and you can channel that addiction, that it makes something that we all like to call passion. And in my opinion, passion trumps all. I'm going to leave that thought with you and move on to a social media platform which I got introduced to quite early and was addicted to for the longest period of time. And that platform is called Instagram. Don't we all just love Instagram? The platform where you get to browse endlessly, the platform which gives you access to both useful and useless, mostly useless, information. I remember when I first discovered Instagram, I was just blown away, because all my free time used to be spent on doing things like making PowerPoint slideshows. Seriously, that's what I used to do with my free time. And suddenly, I had Instagram, where I could browse and do whatever I want, really. And I remember this really helped me socially, because I started to talk to more of my friends and understand their jokes, and really, we used to meme together. So things were really going well. But that was until I discovered the other half of social media. And that's the half that really makes it much more complex than we all allow it to be. And that is the platform to post. Now, I'm going to try to take a different perspective when I look at social media for a second, and that is the perspective of adults versus teenagers. Now, if you're a grade 8 student, like I was, and you just got exposed to this awesome app, you probably have a lot of time you're spending on it, and you do have mostly the time to spend on it. So you have social media eating up a lot of your time where you're spending it browsing. And in addition to that, you realize that you have this awesome platform to share your ideas, but not really that much content to post. And that's what makes it take a big hit on your self-esteem. Because when you realize that you're given this stage and you have such an amazing audience, but you have no story to tell, it can really, really hurt you and make you really consider what you think about yourself. But on the other hand, if you're an adult, and let's say you don't have that much free time on your hands, generally speaking, then you probably don't have that much time to browse through what other people are posting, compare their likes to your likes, and do all the things that teenagers start to get caught up in. But you also have all these great things you've done in your life and things that you have to your name, which you can really post and share with other people. So in your case, social media is really, really helping you, and you're not getting addicted. But in our teenager's case, social media is not only telling her that she or her or him, that she or he doesn't have enough material to post, but it's eating up that free time that the student could be using to create material to post. And that's where it comes into content versus time. However, I'm not here to tell all of you that social media is a problem. I'm sure you know that. I'm sure you've heard that by many other people who probably have done much more research than I have. So why am I here? Well, if you remember, I'm here to help you free teenagers, and I'm confident I can do that because I am freed. I'm here to tell you about my journey of how I went from patient to doctor, how I went from being a social media addict to telling people like you what it means and how to prevent it. And that's when I start to talk about the miracle that happened in my life. This was really how I felt before this miracle happened. But one day, I was just casually doing a day of school when I got a classroom announcement, some of you know what that means, which had an opportunity on it. It had an opportunity to go to this business event for aspiring entrepreneurs. Only 10 students were going from the school, and I was lucky enough to be one of them. I still remember waking up at 5:30 a.m. that day and being like, why am I doing this? But as soon as I got to Toronto, as soon as I got right outside of that venue, Rotman Commerce MBA building, I was like, today is going to be a good day. And I actually did say those words. And that just gives you an idea of how intoxicating the city's energy was. When I went into that event and I heard the amazing women speaking about things like make your own website, get your own business cards, you can host events, you can participate in events, you can download LinkedIn and you can network and you can do all these kinds of things that were just not in my realm of possibilities at that time. I had never applied all the things I had learned in school. I had never knew that there were other things outside of school, until I started to see the possibilities. And that's when I realized that I just wasn't living up to the ability that I could have been living up to. And I started to make my own website. I did get my own business cards. I got customized stationery from Vistaprint. It was awesome. And I started to go to Toronto more often. And I started to network with more people. Then I started to meet them for coffee. And I started to get on calls with people. I went on LinkedIn. LinkedIn was my new Instagram. And suddenly, I started to slowly and steadily float into the world of possibilities and be a part of it. The reason I call SheBiz, this event, a miracle is not only because it happened, but because it happened at such perfect timing. Because around that same time, that very same time, there was an event that took place in India and a whole movement that had just been launched called CrossFit Miles. And this was a women empowerment movement that was working to empower women and girls in India. And I was someone who was very passionate about that cause since I knew about the issue. I was familiar with the situation in India. And I asked them, hey, I want to help you out. Can I fundraise for you? And they said yes. And I did. So I actually made an investment of $70. I bought samosas, set up stall right here in the high school foyer, and I can tell you one thing, they sold like wildfire. And we kept doing it, and we kept raising the price every time, but they'd still sell out. So things were obviously going great. My first enterprising business was a big hit, and I was really happy with where we were. But then our Toronto trip started. And I started to say that this isn't enough. It's great that we're raising money through this method, but we could do so much more and in so many different ways. And that's when I formed a committee. And that's when our small little fundraising business became the Canadian chapter of CrossFit Miles. And we had a social media head. We had a school affairs head. We had a fundraising head. We had so many heads that I was starting to think that, hey, why don't we change the format of this movement? And that's why right now we actually have our own way of raising funds, and that is the leadership program, which is because we incorporated our movement. I decided that I don't want our students to be doing a specific role anymore. I wanted our students to be leading different projects, and that's why in our team, we inspire Canadian youth to launch passion projects, which then work to make a monumental impact to the lives of women and girls in India. So right now, we have a music video project, we have a book club project, we have so many different projects that are being held by teenagers. But how does this all link back to social media? Why am I telling you this when I'm supposed to be telling you how to free yourself from social media? Well, the reason is because now I'm on social media even more. But how is that a solution? Well, if you remember, my title was not to take social media and throw it out of your life. That would be a very, very big waste to a resource which I can probably credit half of my movement's progress to. What I'm trying to say is that now, even though I'm on social media more, I finally feel like I'm the one using it. It's not the one using me. And that gives me the ability to go on vacation and take my phone and actually want to deposit it as far away from me as I can. But in reality, I do have to use it for me, for crossbow, and, you know, for almost everything I do. Right now, I've got board meetings going on, I've got Toronto trips going on, I've got TED Talks going on, and I do post all these things. But they're benefiting me. So that also brings me to why I was telling you about the passion projects within my team, within Crossbow. And the reason I bring those up is because I want our students to be leaders, because then they get passionate about what they're doing. And when a student comes up to me and says, you know what, Kiran, I want to plan a mission to the moon. I'm going to form a team, and I'm going to get sponsors to donate money. I'm going to talk to Elon Musk. I'm going to try to connect to him through his secretary, and I'm going to do this. I say, sure, put together a team and do it for me. And I can bet you, within months, that person won't be spending their free time on social media. They'll be spending it on things that matter to them, that really matter to them. And that's why when we make people leaders, they also discover, like I do, what really matters and what they should really be spending their free time on. So, what are our takeaways? Well, we know for a fact that social media addiction is real. I've experienced it, and in a sense, any type of addiction is real. Addiction to sweaters is real, and I'm pretty sure lots of teenagers have that too. But social media addiction is just something that's much more addictive and much more endless. And the next thing is, it's using too much of our time. I guarantee you, 100% guarantee, if you take all the time you're spending on social media and you spend it on rocket science, you will get into MIT for rocket science. I guarantee it. And the next thing is, it can and does have negative effects on self-esteem. And once again, I can vouch for that. Because it's not just about having a low self-esteem with social media, it's about social media taking away time that you could be spending on things which give you a high self-esteem. And my last takeaway is one that I have come to after lots and lots and lots of thought, and many, many hours, much before I knew I was going to do a TED Talk. Many hours I spent thinking about. And I finally came up with the one solution to social media addiction, and it's not start a business. That's just what worked in my case. But the solution is to get busy. And to get busy with something you're passionate about. I don't care if it's math. I don't care if it's, like me, people, networking. I don't care if it's building a rocket. I don't care if it's writing that book. I don't care if it's making your one song or a music video. Whatever it is, do it. If it's something you're passionate about, do it, and I swear to you, not only will your social and media addiction be fixed, your self-esteem will be raised, and you will just be a better person. And I hope that this helped you today, or helped someone who you know today. And before I go, I just want to ask you to follow me on Instagram, if that's ironic enough. So thank you, and have a very nice rest of your day.